Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I've got 5 top tips for you that might just help you get your guitar or your woodworking project over the finish line with a little less stress. And if you stick around to the end, I've even got a bonus tip for you, so stick around. All right, so masking off and removing excess masking tape can be a little bit fiddly, especially if you want to do it cleanly. If you do it with a knife, sometimes you end up cutting into the substrate, cutting into the piece of wood, you end up scratching it. All sorts of horrible things can go wrong. The tape can start to snag and peel off. And that was a headache I was having a lot when I was masking my guitars. That was until I went and did Michel Pellerin's finishing course out in Quebec, Canada. And he showed me this ingenious method of beautifully removing masking tape using a hardwood dowel and a little bit of sandpaper. So rather than cutting through the masking tape with a knife, what you're going to do is essentially cut through the masking tape with a piece of sandpaper, and it's going to perfectly follow the contour of whatever it is that you're trying to mask. And what we're doing here is we want to stop just as we start to see the wood showing through, and that's it. And you just pull it away, and it is the most satisfying little procedure. All right, so tip number 2. One of the things that I like to do is to remove material from the face of the soundboard, especially around the perimeter, to allow the soundboard to move a little bit more, to give me the response that I'm looking for. And this is a tricky thing to do because you've already got a very accurately and very thin piece of wood with no way of checking really how thick it is. So you're kind of removing material blind. Or at least you would be if I didn't have this magical block of wood with a screw in it. Now this is a tip that I picked up from Irvin Samoji, and like many of his jigs and fixtures and tools, it's ingeniously simple and amazingly effective. So I have a piece of 3/4 inch plywood here. It has a screw, and say I want to remove 5/1000 of material from the face of my soundboard. So I can adjust quite accurately how much of the tip of the screw is pointing out the underside of this piece of plywood. In this case, 5/1000 of an inch. And I'm not going to actually do it on my beautifully sounded guitar here. But what you can do is using the screw tip, create a series of scratches wherever you want to remove material, and you know that those scratches are going to be 5/1000 of an inch deep, or however you've set your little tool. And so what I can do here is create some scratches, and taking my scraper and once those scratches are all gone, we know that we've removed 5/1000 of an inch. We've done it safely, we've done it accurately, we're not sweating, and I love this little guy. It's such a cool, ingenious little tool, and it's just a piece of plywood and a screw. All right, so tip number 3, and this really is a kind of broader tip, which I'll get onto in a second, but at this stage of the build, it's time to pin the bridge, right? Or time to locate the bridge. And this can be a little bit fiddly. Some people do it with bits of string or tape or clamps. It can be messy, things can go wrong, and at this stage, you don't want things to go wrong. So, what I like to use is a bridge location jig, and this is the latest one from ELEVATE Lutherie. We have these adjustable kind of scissor arms. These are going to attach to the side of our neck. We've got this little hook here, which is going to hook over the end of the fingerboard. I've set this up for my Model M guitar, which this is. It's a 25-inch scale length. This is how the jig works. It's all based around your scale lengths. And what I'm going to do here is butt the bridge up against these 2 stops, and you'll know then that the bridge is in the right spot. It's perpendicular to the center line, And if you join us in tip number 4, I will show you how I pin the bridge ready for masking. This tip can be used in so many different ways, and it's essentially a semi-permanent fixing using masking tape and super glue. So in this instance, what I'm going to do is use these little blocks to perfectly hold the bridge in place. I'm going to position these all the way around the bridge so it can't move once I take the jig off, and it will allow me to then go ahead and drill the holes. So what I'm going to do is use a bit of glue boost. This is super glue activator. I've got a piece of masking tape. Really, really important that you put the masking tape onto the soundboard first, or any substrate that you're planning on using this technique for. So I've got my little blocks. They've also got some masking tape on. It's just going to help. It's going to make it easier for me to remove them after the process is over. I'm just going to put a couple of tiny drops. You really don't need much. And put those on the blocks up against the edge of the bridge. I'm just going to hold that in place, let the glue boost do its magic. So we've got masking tape, super glue, masking tape. Beautiful little sandwich which is going to release, he says, really nicely once this is all done. Alright, so we've got all our blocks in place. We can now very carefully take away the ELEVATE Bridge positioning jig, and we have our bridge firmly located. That's not going to go anywhere, and we can look to drill our holes. It's super easy to take these off. At the end, you just remove the masking tape. No marks, no mess, no lines, no pencil, no nothing. I love it. This is one that is just a game changer. So when you're carving the neck on your guitar, it can be really, really difficult to make sure that the back of the neck is perfectly straight along the length. You know what it's like? You're there with your files and your rasps and your spoke shaves, and you've got your straight edge and you're measuring all the way along, and you've got little lumps and little bumps that no matter how hard you try, you can never seem to chase out. You're there with your file and your sandpaper, and it's a nightmare. I used to have this problem all the time until we got the board, the magic board, with a little bit of sandpaper on it. This is a tip that I picked up once again from the legendary Urban Samoji, and this is just a board with some sandpaper attached. I've been extra clever, and I've used some Velcro backed hook and loop paper. Got some Velcro on there so you can change out the grip to whatever suits you. But basically this board is roughly the same length as the shaft of the neck. You've got the sandpaper on there, and with this kind of little dancing motion, you can sand the back of the neck perfectly flat, perfectly straight, and it's just an absolute game changer, like I say. So get yourself a little board, get yourself some hook and loop sandpaper, fill your boots. Alright, so thanks for sticking around and watching this video. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. If you have, do all the usual stuff, like and subscribe. It really, really, really helps us to grow the channel and for us to keep making videos like this. Put in some comments about what you'd like to see next. And because you've been so good and because you've stuck around, we're going to give you a little bonus tip. And this is a really nice one. If you've worked with dark timber, chances are, if you're a luthier, you have, it can be really, really difficult to make accurate markings with a pencil. You know what it's like, you'll draw around something, you'll go to cut it out, and you're like, where's that line? Trying to catch it in the light. You can use coloured pencils, but they tend to be softer, they tend to break, and you know, we're dealing in accuracy here, people. So a tip that I really like, and I can't quite remember where I saw this. I think this might be like a traditional cabinet making technique, but you're going to take a scalpel and very carefully you're going to trace around so now we have a very, very thin, very, very accurate line, and we're going to take our piece of chalk And we're going to basically just trace over, go back over that knife line. We're filling up that knife line with chalk. And rub off the excess chalk, and you can see that you've got a beautiful, extremely fine white line in your dark timber to work to. Cut that out, you'll see that all day long. Super accurate. Working to knife lines, that's what it's all about. So there you have it, 5/6, hopefully really useful little tips that you will be able to deploy and make the best guitars in the world. See you next time.